Good morning or good afternoon. I'm Steve Sullivan with the YouTube channel Sully's Short Sermons That Don't Suck So Bad. I've already put one up there, and let's just say it hasn't quite gone viral yet, but that would probably help if I knew how to get it out there, how to how to make a YouTube video, and if I had a giant microphone in front of me like Howard Stern to make me sound good, then maybe it would. But it's the message that counts, not the means. So I don't care. And I'm going to kind of move in a different direction now to something I'm very passionate about, and that is the area of veterans and how they're understood and how they integrate and interact with civilians and people in the community. This is something I've spent 15 to 20 years as a VA chaplain, and uh, a good portion of that was spent out in rural areas initially and then urban areas, bringing together all the stakeholders, bringing together family members of veterans, everybody with a dog in the fight, anybody on the state level, the VA, providers, veterans themselves, family members, faith communities, bring them together to help them understand each other, help them to integrate. We did a program called Collaborating in Care. We did another one called the VA Clergy Partnership for Rural Veterans. We did another one just called the Community Clergy Training Program, which in that one we ended up having 27 chaplains out throughout the country that were trained to do amazing trainings in their own communities that brought faith communities together of all kinds with veterans and with providers to help them understand how to best collaborate for the benefit of veterans and communities, honestly. We'll talk about that more in future episodes. So that's why I'm doing this. This is because I care, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully, this will be a benefit to both veterans and to community civilians as well. And I'm going to start simple with our first episode, which is titled "Thanks for the Flyover." What to say to a veteran when you meet one. So we're going to start very simply. In this context that I'm thinking of, might be a Taco Bell, it might be at the mall, it might be in your family, it might be a spouse, it might be a person in your congregation, a person in your club, a person could be anyone. But thinking mainly on just initial anonymous uh, interactions that you might have with a single veteran. And obviously, thank you for the flyover is not something a veteran's going to hear or that you're going to say unless they just did a flyover. But if you want to spend 90 cents, you can spend 90 seconds. You can AI that sucker and find out some interesting things about why they fly over large stadiums at athletic events. But that's not really what this is about. We want to talk about what to say when you encounter a veteran. And the go-to saying is, of course, thank you for your service. That's the thing that comes to mind. That's what, you know, community people who don't have a lot of interaction with veterans generally jump to that comment if they see somebody in the community. They're standing in line at Taco Bell, and obviously I'm not being compensated by Taco Bell by referencing them 19 times in this video. I don't even have them listed in my top 5 of fast food restaurants, but it's a convenient location to place ourselves. But thank you for your service. It's kind of, you see a person you know as a veteran, you can tell how they're a veteran. We'll stop right there and talk about how they're a veteran, because that's an important question. Before you even speak to a veteran, you need to know or need to have some idea that they might be a veteran. And of course, the image of a veteran is the same. Unfortunately, I'll blame it on the media, whether it's the news or whether it's Oliver Stone's movies, whatever informs your image. But the traditional image, and I guess Oliver Stone did challenge that image a lot. But the traditional image I had growing up and still have today is one of now an older Vietnam veteran with a hat on, a bit of a curmudgeon, and someone who has obviously identified themselves as a veteran. But the truth is, 90%, 95% of the veterans you encounter, you'll never know that they are a veteran. They don't dress or act the part as if there is a part. They're as diverse as pretty much the communities they come from. So you might not, in most cases, you won't know you're speaking with a veteran, but in some cases you will. And there's some clues. There is the hat, of course, which is a badge of honor for veterans to demonstrate their pride in their service. I'm wearing a ball cap with some degree of pride. My daughter graduated from White Divinity School, and I always loved the mascot of the Demon Deacon. It was a cheap hat, but much deeper than that. I think for veterans, it's a sign of their service, and they want the community in a subtle way to know that they're proud of that service, regardless of what that community or civilian member thinks about the military or their service in general. So that might be a clue. I look for backpacks, camouflage backpacks. There's other t-shirts. There's other ways that you might identify someone as a veteran, and you want to know what to say. Thank you for your service is okay. Like I said, nobody's gonna get angry about. Few people will get angry about that. The only ones that might get angry might be those who had reason to. It's some in the Vietnam era who were not welcome, as most everybody knows now, in the way that they should have been welcomed. And some might be thinking or even saying, that's too much, too little, too late, as Johnny Mathis sang it with someone I don't remember in the late 70s. Thank you for your service. We needed it back then in 68 and 72, 75 when I came home. But now it's of little use. But that's a very small percentage of the veterans. Most of them that hear you say that recognize that you are sincere, that you give a rat's arse, that here's somebody at least cares enough to stop me in Taco Bell or wherever and say something to let them know they recognize their willingness to serve in the military and to serve our country. And it's important to realize that that we're the ones who sent them. We sent them. We voted and we sent them, and we take some responsibility for them. So it's good to recognize that and offer that appreciation. So maybe a step up from thank you for your service would be, for me, is thank you for your sacrifice. I kind of like that word a little bit better because it gets at a little bit more at what many veterans gave up as a result of their service in the military. Some of them obviously offered the greatest sacrifice. I have sitting in a Jiffy Lube getting my oil changed or getting my car inspected, and saw a younger veteran beside me and said, "Hey, I just appreciate your sacrifice, man." And he's like, "I didn't sacrifice anything. It's the ones that didn't come back that did the sacrificing." And that's a really common sentiment for many veterans, is that the real sacrifice for them is the ones that their buddies that they lost or the people that didn't come back. Another problematic word. There's problems with anything you say. I mean, we can sit here and nitpick this to death, and we need not do that, because one of the goals, is of this particular episode and of the series in general and working with veterans, is to not walk on eggshells, not treat them like aliens, not be scared to say the wrong thing. So some others might say, it's not really a sacrifice. It was the happiest time of my life. It was, I never felt closer to anybody. I have veterans who said they felt closer to their battle buddies than they did their own spouses and family members. So, it's something that they are proud of, something that they miss, something that they enjoyed, something that was beneficial to them, something that they'll never forget, and they'll wear as a badge of honor forever. So they don't really view it in that sense as a sacrifice. And usually it's largely because of the communal sense in which they had, where somebody had their back and they had somebody else's back, regardless of the situations that they faced. I kind of ran into that myself. I lived in Thailand for a year and a half. I went back one time, and it was hot, and I was jogging out through near a rice field, rice paddy, of which there are many, obviously, in Thailand as well as Vietnam. And there was probably 25 to 30 Thai people out there. And they were all hand picking rice. I mean, like picking the rice from the damn ground, just picking it up. And they had their lunches out there, and they were eating together and kind of joking and laughing. And I said, "Man, that's hard work what you're doing." That I speak some Thai a good bit after being there for a long time. I said, "Man, that must be really hard what you're doing. It's 100 degrees out here, and you're picking ice by hand." And one of them said, "No, we love it. We're together. We're doing it together." And that really spoke a lot to me about veterans and the ones that I've encountered and their experiences. And also, we're doing it together as a theme of what communities and veterans should be doing, not in isolation, but together. So, anyway, thank you for your sacrifice. Again, there's no perfect thing to say. I had one veteran who told me something that was really eye-opening and said, how are you doing today? Just treat them like you would anybody else in Taco Bell. What's going on? You doing all right? Having a good day? What's going on? Treat them as a normal human being, like giving them the opportunity to either be a civilian or to be a veteran, because most of them now are civilians. They're playing a dual role. They're not just in the military, just a veteran, just identified by that way, but they're also have other jobs. They have family with their families. They're doing their things. They're waiting on their bean burrito just like you are. So how you doing? Start the conversation without any agenda, any notion of what might emerge in that agenda. We have a thing we call ministry of presence, in pastoral care, or where you're there with them and you're just asking questions and letting them control the agenda. And so I kind of like that. How's it going for you today? If they want to talk about their experience, you may say, "Hey, I noticed, it looks like you might be in the military. What was that like?" It's another concept picked up along the way called pastoral ignorance, where you play to your use your civilianness as an asset and not a liability. Use your ignorance. Don't try to be something you're not. No veteran is expecting you to act and be and know everything there is to be about a veteran. Don't start trying to pulling, acronyms out of your ass that you saw in platoon that you want to show that you're trying to relate to them. They're not expecting that. But just simple questions. Where were you? When did you serve? Where did you serve? I never heard. Where exactly is Iraq now? Where exactly is that town in Iraq? I'm not familiar with that. Were you there very long? Did you like it? Did it suck? Did you move around? Do you miss it? Did you enjoy it and miss it? I mean, there's a lot of ways to go if a conversation kind of starts to emerge, or you have time, you're in a situation, getting your hair cut or whatever, where there is time for a legitimate conversation to emerge. Realize that most of the time you say thank you for your service, your sacrifice. They may grunt, they may say thank you, they may ignore you or not hear you, as happened the other day in the mall. They may go right back to their phone or their family or whatever else they're doing. It's nothing personal, it just is what it is. There might be some cases where you can have a legitimate conversation, and just being as relaxed and normal as you would be with anybody who just came back from a vacation in Switzerland. You ask those kind of questions. What'd you do? And what was it like? Let them, if they want to talk about just their experience in a light way, where they were, how long they were there, drop it and go back to standing in line. That's fine. If they want to share more than that, they can. I found in certain circumstances, there's a myth out there that veterans will only talk to other veterans, so we got to have veterans, only in veteran groups. So they only get each other, they only understand each other, and I'll talk more about that in a future episode as well. But I've had, at least in one case, I can remember a veteran talk to me 15 minutes after a Wednesday night church service about the fact that he would only talk to veterans about his military experience, and I'm thinking the whole time I'm a civilian, but okay, and just listen and just kind of follow this conversation. So they will talk to civilians, and in a lot of times they'll talk to civilians. They may or may not talk about military issues with a civilian, and that may depend upon how you approach them, or it may not. It may depend on whether or not they want to talk about that stuff. They've got other people probably talking to them about it, and that's why what you say is less important than the fact that you say something, because they've heard everything, most of them. They've, I've been a veteran for a long time, a lot of them, so there's nothing new. There's no curveballs. There's no magic wand. There's no pill. There's no something that you're going to be able to give them that's going to fix them right off the bat, or off mini bats. But just showing that you care. That person may just say, "Thanks, appreciate it," and they may go home, and then on the way home they're thinking, "Well, somebody cared enough to say something. That didn't happen in a week or a month, a year, whatever, so just showing that you care can be enough. Having what we call a ministry of presence and being there with them. But in those times where it does go deeper, which are rare, except for when you have a longer term relationship, but not always in a longer term relationship. I can't say that because I was kind of stumbled across an idea one time when somebody was in an elevator with me or somewhere and just talked my ear off about their life in the elevator going someplace, and it's like, gosh, that's a lot for somebody they don't even know. And but then I realized, hey, people say that, you hear that all the time. Gosh, that lady just talked my ear off, she doesn't even know me. Well, it's not, in spite of the fact they don't know you, it's because they don't know you. It's because they know that eventually the elevator is going to reach the lobby, the bus is going to come to the station, and they'll never see you or they'll never see you again. I haven't had one veteran in Arizona, a unique experience in we were in a church there. They were doing a training, and I said to him, how'd you deal with a lot of this stuff? And he said, to be honest with you, I got in my truck. I drove to the next state over. I spoke to a chaplain I didn't know about the experiences that I had. I came back to my church so I wouldn't bring that stuff back here, and that's how I did it. And I call this intimate anonymity, and it emerges a lot of times, I think. And it's one of the assets that you can use in a casual conversation with a veteran. They may share things because they know they're not going to see you again, or they may share things because they will see you and they trust you. It's almost like a reverse bell curve that I don't know you at all, so I may talk to you. I only know you a little bit. I'm sure as hell not going to talk to you. To, okay, I know you well. I trust you. I've been around you enough. I'll share some things with you. So it's kind of a good communication way to imagine that. But if things do become more deep, it's important to just remain calm and fake it if you're feeling like this something is shocking or something you haven't heard before. Be what we call a non-anxious presence, which is very difficult sometimes in situations. But just sit there with it. And I used to have as a bullet point, suspend judgment. That's what it was, yeah. Suspend judgment whenever you encounter a veteran. But I decided you can't really suspend judgment. You don't suspend judgment on anybody. You meet anybody, you size them up, and you look at them and figure something about them, and have some opinion about what they're saying. And then in these situations, you're gonna have some opinion about the rightness or wrongness of whatever situation they're talking about, whatever they're meaning, whatever they're saying. But you can suspend, this is not always easy, but you can keep your judgment. You can keep the judgment and suspend judgmentalism, which I think is a key to, what's a key to Jesus, in the life of Jesus. Jesus wasn't stupid. He knew it was a tax collector. He knew it was a prostitute. He wasn't dumb. He knew the perceptions of those people, but he had the judgment, but he withheld the judgmentalism. It's true in many other religions. I'm not trying to be exclusively Christocentric here, but just an image, kind of an illustration that came to mind. So I think it's important to be honest about who you are, realize you have opinions about a war or an experience in a war, but hold back on that and listen and accept that person for who they are and their experience, because you haven't been where they've been. You haven't been through what they've been. Using yourself as a civilian as an asset. You're offering them a gift. As a civilian, the way I see it, I can offer them a gift that a veteran, or of their stripe at least, cannot offer them, because I am clueless about where they are. I can offer them as a community member. I have not done what you've done. You've done it for me. I can offer you that gift. And I think that's why this communication thing is so important. And the fact that you're just available and present for them. Um, I think it's also important to realize, we going back to this image of veterans and the diversity of experiences, the fact that you won't recognize those veterans that are around you because some of them are women, and you don't immediately think of a woman as being a veteran. But when I left the VA, I think it was 18% of veterans were women, and so they may be a woman, they may be tatted up and ripped. I mean, my wife, she basically identifies veterans by being ripped, being strong, and by their posture, which is the opposite of my posture, some of which is genetic. But they, that's how she identifies veterans. I bet that guy's a veteran, or I bet she's a veteran, And it may be that they're tatted up, but look at our communities now, our civilian communities. Veterans are just a microcosm of what we have in our communities. And, you know, can you go through a day without seeing tattoos, Uh, or, pink hair used to be a big deal. And I like to notice someone's hair and compliment pink hair if I see pink hair. But now it's no big deal. And it doesn't even register with me. In fact, sometimes you might see somebody, oh my God, that that lady's got like normal hair. It's dark hair, and it's normal looking. That's strange. Or, my God, there's not a pierce in that person's nose, that young person's nose. That's odd. It's almost like a flip. So just realizing the diversity or lack thereof that you might see in veterans, and making note of that, and again, keeping your judgment without your judgmentalism in that conversation. But if something really, kind of heavy kind of comes out, realize your own biases. And one thing to kind of realize is I'm kind of like, some aspects, just to be transparent with you all here, there's some aspects of war that where I'll find myself, not all wars and not all situations, for the love of small animals, but there's some, aspect of a war that I may disagree with, where I might say, okay, in that aspect, I'm anti-war, but I'm still pro-veteran, because 98% of the veterans you come in contact with had no say-so in where they went, when they went there, and whatever they did. They were just doing their job. Just like a lot of you are just doing your job. And it's not like they chose, they may have chose to go in the military, at least since Vietnam and any of the draft. But beyond that, very little choice. The real choices go to the 2% of people who sent them, the people that we elect to send them. I'll keep coming back to that. And those 2% will usually let you know that they're in the 2% that got to make those decisions. They're usually more than happy to let you know that they were a part of the ones who actually got to decide where people went and what they did. So it's important to note when you're hearing some of these stories that it's not like they had a choice in so many ways to do what they did, and to be able to listen to that and accept it in any way you can. But again, just in kind of to sum this up, the best thing you can do when you see someone that you think is a veteran, might be a veteran, you want to say something, show that you care a little, if not a lot, and it's just to treat them like a human being, like you would anybody else. How are you doing? Appreciate your sacrifice. Ask normal questions and just roll with whatever emerges, whether it's a 2-second commercial and back to a bite of the bean burrito that the veteran has now received and is at his table eating, or whether it becomes a longer discussion or a series of discussions. I've had some, and you can think of one incident in which it was months before I was able to have a veteran share what happened that had bothered him, and even begin to get some kind of a healing, some kind of peace about that. So realize you're not there to fix them. You're not there to, you're not there to solve their problems, give them some magic word or some magic formula that's going to make them feel fine or come to your church or do anything. You're just there because you care, and you show that you care by just acknowledging the fact in those cases where the person obviously is, in the airport getting ready to board early or wherever they are, obviously is a veteran and you care. That's all they care about anyway. Um, Everything else they've heard probably or will hear. So you're one person in that person's life, as I begin to lose my voice for no apparent reason, that they can go and say, okay, that person cares, and might move the needle a little bit for that person for that day or for their life. You don't know. Thanks for listening to episode 1. Enjoy yourself, enjoy your day, and enjoy your flyover. Thanks for your flyover. Should you be a person witnessing a flyover or participating in one, which would be a very small amount, I would imagine. Thanks a lot, and y'all have a great day. And hope to see you in future episodes. Again, we have well, not again because I haven't shared this. I think I have been competent enough to open the chat open on the YouTube website, and my email is communityveterancoordinator@gmail.com. Welcome any suggestions, any disagreements, any stories, incidents, whatever might emerge, and I appreciate you. Thank you.